Hidden Strike, 2023. The plot takes place in the not-too-distant future, when insurgents are attacking an Iraqi refinery that is owned by China. The mission of guiding citizens away from the highway of death and toward Baghdad's green zone falls to a group of special soldiers. The strong dragon Luo, who is leading that group, learns that his estranged daughter is one of the refinery's residents. Chris, a former Marine, is tormented by memories of his father in the meantime. He is aware that the man responsible for his father's and several of his squad mates' killings is on the bus convoy that Luo is leading. But he also needs money to fix the village's water system. Chris hires a group of mercenaries, whom he gives amusing nicknames to, and sets out to attack the convoy and get his revenge. However, this is all one big setup, and Chris finds himself unwittingly teaming up with Luo to face a common enemy.
It is a team of international criminals.
Who's the real mastermind here? Chris pulls off the desert heist, using a modified truck with a jet engine attached to the back to simulate a man-made sandstorm. He kidnaps some of Luo's soldiers and heads back to base. However, Chris has been duped. Owen is the real mastermind behind everything. He wants to wipe the company out as he's jealous of them getting everything and he has nothing. He's taking the war private to get revenge. Chris wants no part of that. His stake is that he wants justice to be served and also money to provide water for his village. Owen is running everything for Unicorp, so Chris and Luo work together to get their people back and stop Owen.
The biggest oil heist in history.
What previously occurred to Chris's father? Chris and his deceased brother used to be independent contractors for their father. All of them were special ops. However, Chris's father was hired 2 years ago to work on the highway of death. At first he declined, but Chris persuaded him to accept. They ultimately drove directly into a rebel ambush. After a 48-hour combat, everyone was killed. Chris has been living with regret ever since and holds himself responsible.
I thought and regretted it all night long.
Do Chris and Luo fight in the refinery? After being ambushed that night in the village, Luo and Chris work together to storm the oil refinery and stop Owen once and for all. Oh, and bring their people back as well. Driving the truck armed with a jet engine, they head into the base and a big fight ensues. Chris and Luo both fight their way through the various goons, working together and using their strengths. They work their way into the control room, dispatching Skullface and freeing the hostages. With Owen heading out to the DMZ, Chris follows in hot pursuit with May, who shows up in Chris's car to find Luo. May drives, awkwardly, while Chris directs her. While this is going on, back at the refinery, Luo fights Skullface.
Shame I have to do on my own.
How do the trio stop Owen? After defeating Skullface, Professor Cheng shows up with big news. Owen's group have broken the dongle and he can't shut the refinery down. It's all up to Chris now to try and stop Owen once and for all. He drives with May, but when the latter crashes the car, Luo shows up in the jet engine truck. They all ride together, straight into the tankers. A chain reaction then takes place, as the trucks hilariously topple into each other like some video game glitch, flying in the air, tipping upside down and eventually smashing into Owen's group.
It was so unrealistic, but spectacular.
How does Hidden Strike end? Owen survives the carnage, but Chris is hell-bent on getting revenge. As Owen leaves on a desert buggy, our heroes use their jet engine rigger to zoom through the desert, colliding with Owen's buggy and straight off a cliff. Thankfully, Luo and May manage to survive. May sees that Luo has the other side of the torn photograph shown earlier in the movie, depicting May and her mother. Now I understand, May says, as she reconciles her differences with her father. Chris survived too, as he happens to be hanging on the cliff. They make it to the ledge, but they're stuck for now, calling out for help.
That is not personal.
Is there a mid-credit sequence? There is indeed. During the mid-credit sequence, the trio make it back to the village. Luo's team apprehend the tankers out at sea. The village also gets water too, with a group effort in place to get the springs working. Just then, Luo's team arrive and confirm there's another mission. This time, Chris is invited along for the ride. Ultimately, Luo rekindles his relationship with his daughter, who's now helping out in the village, and likely to get in a relationship with Chris. As for Chris, he's made peace with what's happened to his father, and now has renewed purpose in life. For some, Hidden Strike will feel like a proper throwback to those Saturday nights renting a B-movie VHS from Blockbuster. For others, this will be a painful experience. Given the wealth of action films that have released this year, Hidden Strike doesn't even stack up to the most mediocre. Thank you for watching us. Follow our channel. Subscribe.